All right, thank you all for joining this webinar. We're really excited to have you here. I'm also really excited that we've been doing this Chick-fil-A webinar series. So this is our second webinar for this summer with you guys, and hopefully it's been a blast. And so for those of you that did join our first one, welcome again, and we're excited to have you. And also, just to give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be primarily focused on how Chick-fil-A can achieve more with Jolt labeling and lists. So we're excited to show you folks all of the different things that we have prepared, and also talk more about some of the specific features that can help, that you can utilize within your stores and help with your day-to-day processes. So just to get started here, we'll go through a few intros. So I'll be hosting this webinar today. My name is Johnny Ott. Some of you might have already been in touch with me in the past. I'm a customer success manager with Jolt. I've been with Jolt for just over a year now, been working a lot with the Chick-fil-A brand. Really love working with all of you, and also the culture that Chick-fil-A has. And it's been great seeing the best practices that some of you have done with using Jolt, and also the types of successes that you've seen with Jolt. So I'm excited and love Jolt. I love what we stand for and what we're pushing for to help make your lives a lot easier, and to love your work as well. And lastly, just so that you all know, my favorite ice cream flavor is Rocky Road.
Thank you, Johnny. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Verbeck. I am the customer success team lead here at Jolt Software for the Chick-fil-A brand. Johnny and I work extensively with you folks quite a bit. A little bit about me. I've been with Jolt a little over 2 years now. And previously to that, I was with the Kroger company for 23 years in the Northwest Fred Meyer division. So a lot of leadership background there. And when Jolt came knocking, I couldn't hesitate to come down here and to Utah and to move my family. So it's been a blessing to work for Jolt. It's been a blessing to work for you folks. Absolutely love the Chick-fil-A brand. Not just the food, but what you guys stand for, and the passion you guys have for not only your employees, but your customers as well. And to be able to help you have Jolt help with those solutions and be able to better get to know your brand a little more and continue to build that relationship. So super excited to be here and to continue working with all of you.
And Jeff, you can't escape the question. You got to tell us what your favorite ice cream flavor is.
I am very old-fashioned, and I'm good old-fashioned vanilla, just like my son.
Awesome. Okay, we like to also highlight our special guest today, Hunter Wallace. I've been working with Hunter for a little bit here now, and so we're excited to have her join us. Hunter, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Johnny. Hey guys, good afternoon. First of all, I hope you're enjoying your day. I know I am, and it's sunny and 75, and I'm loving it. As they said, my name is Hunter Wallace. I'm the Drive-Thru Director at Chick-fil-A West Evansville in Indiana. I have been with Chick-fil-A since I was 19, and I am 25 now, so I've been with them a little over 6 years. I started as a team member, worked my way up as a manager within the first year, and about 2 years later, I got a director role, and I've been loving that. Jolt was introduced to me about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I am one to not like change. So I happily put my foot in my mouth, and I have fallen in love with Jolt, and it has helped me tremendously in so many ways, and it has helped our staff. And my favorite ice cream is Dutch chocolate.
Oh, that's nice. Dutch chocolate. Awesome. I'm glad that you didn't escape the question. So we want to make sure everyone knows everything about us. So thanks, Hunter.
All right. Thank you, Hunter. It's a pleasure. First time I got to talk to you, so a pleasure to hear your voice and be able to get to know you as well. Just so everyone's aware, we are recording this. And so when this is all over and our marketing team is able to kind of clean it up and make it look nice and pretty, we'll make sure to get it out to all of you. We will also have it on our YouTube channel as well. So if you have anybody that wasn't able to participate that you know of that would like to hear this and see this, this will be ready for them to be able to view for that. Also, just so you are aware, feel free to use the Q&A chat that's below. So any questions you have throughout, we will answer those Q&As and those towards the end of the webinar. But feel free to use the Q&A, get your questions in now. We will monitor those and be able to answer those at the end. And if you have anything else to say as well, if you're having any kind of technical issues or anything like that, please let us know through the chat, and we'll make sure to respond to that as well.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So just to give you a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. So first, we're going to talk about a little bit of the daily challenges that some of you have experienced with your day-to-day processes, and what solutions you can find through Jolt. And we'll be showing examples of that based off of some of the stories or experiences and calls that we've had with many of you, where you have found a specific problem and wanted to find a solution with that through Jolt. And so we'll be highlighting some of those through these features. So we'll be talking about how you can utilize corrective actions in your sub lists, talking a little bit about formulas and how you can utilize that for your day-to-day processes. A new feature as well that's called display criteria and how that can streamline a lot of your lists. And then Jolt labels and chicken tracking, which will be highlighted through Hunter Wallace as well. So, and then lastly, we'll have our Q&As. So a little bit about some of the things that we have heard through calls with all of you, or through specific situations that you've emailed in. We've talked a lot about some mandatory employee temperature checks that have happened because of COVID-19. And I know that can get pretty tedious at times. And so we have an example for you that we built out with some of the customers we've worked with and we're excited to show you on examples of that. Some other day-to-day challenges or opportunities within Jolt that you can help solve for could be chicken tracking. And I know that can be also a very difficult process or tedious process to try to find a solution for. Same with SteriTech inspections that happen pretty regularly, and food safety guidelines that you have to follow. Those are also very important, making sure that you're following those food safety guidelines. And then, of course, food prep. All of you are slammed all the time with, the drive-through and the number of customers that you have coming through. You want to make sure that you're prepping fast enough for those rushes. And so hopefully we have some solutions here for you that can help streamline that process. And then lastly, I know employee turnover is also a challenge of, employees that are seasonal, or student employees that come in and come out. So we are excited to also talk about how you can help tackle that challenge using our integrations with Chick-fil-A. Wanted to ask you, Hunter, maybe you can talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges or things that you've experienced on your day-to-day processes and how Jolt has helped with that.
Absolutely. So a couple years ago, the biggest issue that I saw was accountability, especially when people were prepping in bulk. With people's names, you have people who have the same initials. You have people who just kind of forget to put their initials. So holding accountability was a really big issue. That, and sometimes we'd forget what day it is. We'd get Monday confused with Wednesday. So we'd be labeling things improperly and not actually know their hold times. And Jolt, especially its labeling system, has helped with that. Not only does it hold accountability, because instead of initials, it prints out your entire name on that sticker. It also holds accountability because it knows what day it is. It keeps up with that for you. You don't have to walk into work knowing the date and the day. The system knows that for you. So that's something that I really enjoyed. And the chicken tracking system has really helped our store especially. We had a recall probably 3 years ago, and it took us an entire day to figure out what chicken it was because we just didn't have the best process in place at the time. So Jolt has really helped in that sense too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hunter. I know there's a lot of use cases that we can find solutions for with using Jolt. So we want to open up a poll here and just get some input to figure out which of these specific challenges are most important to you. And we'll give you a few minutes here for everyone to answer.
Also, just so you folks are aware, if you're having trouble seeing the poll, feel free to go ahead and put your answers, not in the Q&A, but in the actual chat section itself. Okay, thank you folks for taking the time to fill that out. That is going to be more for us, so we kind of have a roadmap as your success managers to be able to reach out and discuss with you those issues and those challenges and opportunities you're having. They also want to see solutions inside of Jolt as well, so appreciate your time in doing that. And we're going to kind of go into the demo now and kind of show you what corrective actions, what sublists, what this information is going to look like to you on the actual device and on the front end. We thought it was very important, and this is a very powerful tool with Jolt 2 and with these devices. And we wanted to make sure we took some time to kind of show you what I have built out for you guys when it comes to the sublist, when it comes to corrective action, and kind of how some of these flags will work as well. So one of the things you can see on the screen here is this safe data critical. So one thing with sublist, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this. One thing with sublist, you're gonna see this is the sublist right here. As you are, most of you and all of you are aware, when it comes to SteraTech, a lot of these daily safety criticals, a lot of these audits that Chick-fil-A does, and many of you that I've talked to, these get pretty cumbersome, pretty long. And yes, they can be inside of Jolt, but when it comes due time to do it, your team or your leadership or your managers that are working on it are staring at 150, 200 items, 100 items, whatever that could be, and they're having to sit there and scroll through everything they have to get to in order to get to the section they need to. What Sublist does is help streamline that and help organize that to where it's not as cumbersome to look at. So maybe you're only looking at 4 or 5 folders per se, and not the entire list at one time. What that basically looks like, when you look on the top right here with preventing contamination and good hygiene, this is the actual sublist. You'll see there's 18 items that are in it. Once you click on this arrow, the actual list is going to show up. And so from here is where you can actually work on this list, or your team members or your leadership can work on this list. This is basically how that sub list will work. As you're working on ones, whether it's a yes, let me actually log myself in really quick. If it's a yes, of course, you will see my name and timestamp the day that I did it. Whether it's a no, you can keep going. This is where the red flags are at. So these are what flags that are inside of Jolt, where you can give an engagement piece not only, but to show, hey, something's out of range or something's not correct. You can do the other way around. There's a lot of different ways you can have thumbs up and smiley faces and things to kind of show your team that, nope, this is wrong. We need to take a look at this and figure out what's that, rather than having everything kind of one color and kind of disappearing in the background. And you can continue to keep working on these things if you need to. And you'll notice when you back out, you'll see that it only shows there's 3 of 18 that are actually completed. So you can work on just this sub list right now and then focus on the other ones at a different time. From there as well, we have what's called corrective action. So with corrective action, previously with Jolt, what would happen and corrective action is only on yes or no questions and on measurement items, at least for right now. When it comes to corrective action, originally, when we didn't have that, someone could mark a no. You had to have an extra question in there as far as, okay, well, what did you do to fix it to get it to a yes, or if it's out of measurement? There was a lot of different things you had to kind of incorporate into your list to kind of get that for your team to understand what has to happen. Now with corrective action, Jolt already is an assistant manager inside your hands. This takes it to a whole nother level. So with this, you'll notice I kind of highlighted this in red, and it says, are the sanitizer test strips available for solid sense or K5? Well, if they're not, we all know sanitizer strips, if they're not in there and you guys get audited, a lot of restaurants will get dinged for that. So if it's a no, you will see not only is it red flagged, but now a corrective action is going to pop up. So now from here, whoever's doing this audit for you already knows by clicking on this, you've already set up what you want them to do without them having to come tug on your coat strings and try to find you in a busy day to ask you what am I supposed to do. They will just click on this. Now the corrective action list is going to pop up where you can mention, hey, I need you to go here. I need you to fill it. Yep. Okay. It's filled. Do we need to order more strips or whatever customization you want that corrective action list to say. Basically, if it's filled, you're like, yep, it's good. Now we need to order more. If you need to order more, please order more before moving on. Whatever customization you want, this walks them through that. Also with corrective action, you're making them repeat the item. So once they submit this corrective action, now they can go back, they can click on this, and you can actually see how many times the corrective action was done, if they need to look at that. And then once it's all filled and it's ready to go, they can mark yes. You will see that it's good to go, and then they can move on to the next question. And you can submit these items as you're going as well through that sub list. Same kind of thing when you back out. You will notice only 4 of 18 is done. And once this sub list is completely done, you can submit this sub list like you would any other thing else, and then this would disappear, and all you've got left are these other 4 categories to work on. So that's kind of how the corrective action and sub list will work when it comes to that. Now, with measurement items, how corrective action actually works is the same kind of way, except now there's a range basically that's set up. So if you move into this list, you will notice when I come down into here, I'm going to come to this one here, enter the temperature of the cut tomatoes. So if they go to enter that temperature and that tomato comes in at 50 degrees and they go to record that, that's going to red flag it and basically say, nope, there's a corrective action. Here's what I need you to do to get this back into range. Same kind of thing. They will click on this. They will answer these questions. Is it temped correctly? If it's no, check the breakers, whatever those questions might be for you to have your team troubleshoot of what they need to do to get this fixed correctly. Are tomatoes filled too high? No, check the airflow. You can see there's also the opposite of that. We can give them a thumbs up where that's a good answer so they can move on. They can submit that, and then they can go ahead and repeat that. When they go back down to retemp the tomatoes, if they're within range at 40 degrees, they go to record that. It's good. They can move on. So they will not let them finish that until that corrective action is actually completed. On top of that, what also is important when it comes to corrective action is there's not only on no items, but also on yes items as well. So basically depending, and the yes items is a fairly new thing right now that we just started doing, where originally it was only on no. So there might be certain questions where maybe inside the employee temp checks, it might be one of those things where is an employee showing symptoms of illness? Well, if they mark yes, then that corrective action can pop up the same way for them, for your leadership to be okay, take their temperature, they need to be sent home, whatever that corrective action might be for that option. And the cool thing about this with inside of Jolt as well is that all of this is also recorded in the reporting side of things on the back end. And so you'll be able to monitor what those corrective actions are, how many were done, what the responses were. Your digital file cabinet on the back end is ready to go, and we'll store all that information for you. So that's kind of what the sub list and the corrective action is going to look and kind of work, and how that's going to make streamline your list and make them a little bit smaller and easier to look at. But again, also take that accountability piece to another level to where you can actually hold your team more accountable without you actually being right there to guide them. The other thing I wanted to show you is the employee temperature check. So one of the things that we have is called display criteria. What that basically means is that you can now set up a display criteria depending on what the answer is going to be how many times that actual question you have to answer is going to populate. So with an employee temperature check, and now this is one that we actually built for a couple of our customers that wanted this, and this is actually ready to go. So if this is something that you guys you folks are very interested in, we can definitely subscribe you to this, and you guys can have this actually inside your account ready to go without you having to reinvent the wheel again. When it comes to this, for instance, how many employees are working this shift? Well, right now you notice there's nothing there. Well, as soon as you start increasing this, these will start populating. So originally with Jolt, when display criteria wasn't available, you might have maybe any given time 40 employees that are working. Well, instead of having your leadership having to stare at 40 of these that they have to fill out or don't have to fill out because maybe they only have 10 people showing up, then you can just have that display criteria to only show how much you want it to show. And then the same kind of thing from there, you can select the employee that you're actually wanting to temp, what their temperature is. If their temperature is too high and they go to record that, it's a big stop sign. Here's a corrective action that will pop up the same kind of way with that measurement because it's out of that range. And then basically select the employee's name. You can, whatever those questions are going to be, you just send them home. That extra corrective action that actually gives them that peace of mind that they don't have to go bother you. They already know what they have to do. So that's what's really important with that corrective action. Like I said, and with that display criteria, that's all adjustable to what you can have done at any given time. If this is increasing and there's more, we'll start over. And there's more, you just keep clicking on that and these will keep populating. however many times you need to fill that out. So that's important. That way you're not looking at all of this stuff that you have to not have to fill out, and then the list just looks really, really big. So that's kind of how display criteria works and what that's going to look like on the front end, and then basically how that corrective action and sub list is going to help kind of streamline those operations for you.
Awesome, Jeff. Really exciting stuff. One thing I definitely wanted to mention that I failed to mention earlier is that some of these lists we will have available. We are actually working on a publisher account to where you can subscribe to that with some of this content on there. So not every single one of these lists will be on there, but we're working on adding them on there as we go. So quite a few of them will be here, such as this employee temperature check. So one thing that we also wanted to show you that will help streamline some of your processes is a few more features. But before we jump into that, wanted to get a little bit of your feedback, Hunter. I know we've worked together a little bit in the past, and we got you as you moved on to a new location, a bigger location. I know some things come up to where you need to find solutions for, but how some of these things that we've shown you, how do you think this would help benefit your location?
Especially the employee temperature check. We have a lot of employees that come and go, especially since we're a brand new store. We're grand opening, so we have a lot of shifts for training. So, and we don't have a lot of management in place yet. So for me, on a typical day, I'll have myself and maybe one or two other managers supporting me. And with people coming and going, it's really hard to track when they're coming and going. So sometimes people are getting skipped for temp checks, and they'll go have their shift and we'll realize, oh my gosh, they didn't get checked. So that would benefit me, because then they would know, hey, when they come in, they have to take their own temp, they have to record it. And that's just one thing that I don't have to worry about.
Awesome. Yeah. And liability is such a big issue, especially with, this pandemic going on. Want to make sure to cover your backs, make sure employees are at a right temperature when they come into work. And if they are exhibiting any type of symptoms similar to COVID-19, we want to make sure safety precautions are being taken place. So that's awesome, Hunter. And I know you guys you folks are always busy with everything that you're going, and with the rushes. It's just so hard to keep track of this all at once, and having this streamlined and available to you to utilize can really help with that. So thanks.
Absolutely. I don't know about the other stores, but right now with COVID, we are utilizing outside a lot. So it's really important that we get those temps before their shifts, because if they're going halfway through their shift and they're the majority outside, they're going to temp higher. And then you're going to have to make them sit down, wait, and their temp might not go down, and then you're forced to send them home just because according to the temp log they are running a fever. So it's just really important that we get those temp checks before they clock in, while they're cooled off and they're in the air conditioning.
Awesome. That's a great point there. Perfect. Well, thanks, Hunter. We wanted to show you a couple other options here that we talked about, some daily challenges. I know just simple things such as money, counting the money box, or the till or the cash box, the safe. That can be pretty tedious as well, or there may be mistakes that happen quite often with counting up the change. We have a brand new feature that utilizes what's called formulas, and we've built out a sample here to where that can help streamline that process just a little bit, and also record. So if something comes under or over, you at least have a record of this. And so the system basically allows for, basically counts up this change for you. All you need to do is just count how many pennies, nickels, and dimes you have. For example, here, we can select our name of the person filling this out, time of day that we're doing this. And then, okay, we've got maybe 12 pennies, 80 nickels, 45 dimes, and then an outrageous number of quarters, because everyone loves quarters. And it totals it up for us. That's our coin total, $260.62. As you can see here, we also have the bills, so we can count up all of our bills here as well. and start putting all of that info. And once you have counted everything up, the number of bills you have, we now have a cash total, a coin total, and then an option where it counts both that cash and coin total up together to where we have this large amount number here of 13,000. So it does help streamline that process just a lot quicker instead of manually counting the cash. I know mistakes happen all the time with that, but it provides for more accuracy, and then any specific comments and a signature just to make sure that we have that accountability when it has been taken care of. So really awesome feature there. You can utilize formulas for a lot of different other things as well for counting, not just money, but also for other specific options. We've got a question here that we wanted to address right away. So the question is, can the safe count list be modified to include counting rolls and bundles of bills that have not been broken out? Yes, you can definitely do that. So if you know the total of how much a roll would be, it's just a matter of plugging that into the formula. So we'll talk more about the resources and how we can get you in touch to understand how to create those formulas in the back end, but just know that you definitely can do that through these formula item types. And then one last quick question is from Kyle here. Is that particular list available for everyone? Yes, this is one list that will be on that publisher account. So at the end of this webinar, we'll give you all our resources to know how you can get access to this specific list. So thanks for those two quick questions there, and we'll cover some of the other questions towards the end. Okay. One other feature that we wanted to highlight as well is food prep. And some of you might be needing a faster food prep process. So we have a brand new feature where you can actually print labels from your checklist. I didn't have actually an exact prep sheet from a Chick-fil-A to know kind of how your prep process goes. Most of the Chick-fil-A's kind of know it by heart, or they have a process already. So if you do have a prep sheet that we can look at to help make this a lot better of a list, this is just something I mocked up, but it's based off the breakfast list and what items that you would have for that. But just a simple prep sheet here where you can put in how many you have on hand of bacon. So we can say, you know, I'm not sure what packaged bacon comes in, but we can say, you know, we have 12 here and we need a prep up for that for about 15 more for the rush. And so if we have 15 of these, we can click this label button here and start printing off 15 of those labels. Right there from that list. So they can go into the walk-in, start looking through these items on that prep checklist, and then start printing off these labels right off of that instead of having to go back and forth. So I know that that travel time can add up over time, and so this will help make that a lot easier and more efficient as you're doing your prep in the mornings or afternoons before those rushes. Hunter, after seeing some of these couple features, what are your thoughts on these and how that could help your team?
Especially the safe count. That's the first time I got to see that. That would really help my team because we do have a money counter, but sometimes the calibration gets off and not everyone knows how to recalibrate it. And then they start counting by hand, and then we get off on counts. And then for 2 or 3 days straight, we're spending a lot of time trying to find where floating money is. And are we really missing it? Or is it floating around in somebody else's drawer? Or is it in the safe? So that would really knock out some of the floating money issues that we've been seeing.
Awesome. Yeah, I know for myself, you know, math is not my strongest suit. So I'm sure I'd be counting that money over and over again until it was actually right. So I definitely agree with you. I think that it helps with accuracy and speed for sure on that. So really excited to share these types of examples with you, and just to give you an idea of what Jolt can do. There's so much I know with what you can do with Jolt, but sometimes it's hard figuring out, okay, what use cases it can be for. And hopefully these examples have helped you see the scope or the stretch that Jolt can do for your day-to-day processes. Okay. Going back to the webinar presentation here. So we wanted to highlight a specific process that that Hunter has and her team has established, and that is a chicken tracking process. And I know this has been a major concern or a major challenge in a lot of Chick-fil-A store locations to try to figure out the best process for this. And sometimes, some of you have found out a process on your own, which makes this partnership so much awesome, just because we can learn from you as well, from things that you have learned or designed through Jolt. So Hunter, I wanted to hand this off to you to kind of explain a little bit about what you did, and we'll actually show you, we'll present her account with the labels, but yeah, have you tackle this one as well.
That's awesome. So the chicken tracking system is basically a FIFO system for your chicken. It's a first in, first out system. So you track from when it comes in frozen all the way from the thawing process to when it's served to its guest. And the Jolt system has really helped us with that. So when the chicken first comes in, we have labels for all the chicken, and they have numbers on them, and you put them on the boxes themselves. And the reason we do that is because if there's a recall, you can find the batch and just go from the batch numbers of 101 to 115 or 120 or whatever that batch number leads up to, and you can pull all of those at once rather than having to one by one read each label and figure out what batch it came through. So that's a really good process, and that's one of the reasons why we came up with the system in the first place, because we did not have a good system in place for recalls. It also helps the team know what to pull first, because they're in order. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it makes it really easy for them to know what comes out first, what should be staying in, what should be moved over. Helps us keep track of that. So then for the thawing process, when you pull it out, we have stickers for that as well. You would just tear off the label that you have your first label on, just so you keep that with the batch, just in case it gets recalled while it's thawing. And these stickers are to tell us when we pulled them versus when they can no longer be served. So it gives us a expiration time as to when we would need to pull that chicken and not serve it.
Awesome, Hunter. And just to kind of understand a little bit more about this, and basically before you were able to find this solution through Jolt, just through the Jolt labeling, how many hours or how much time did it take you guys take you to basically go through this chicken tracking process?
Honestly, it probably took an entire day from when we opened to when we closed to ensure that the accuracy was there. Because again, the process is from frozen to thaw. So you have to make sure that from frozen to thaw, you're pulling properly. Because if you're pulling something before another, you're going to get off track. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard. It was hard without the labels because you didn't know when people pulled them. Sometimes stickers would, the stickers that we used to have weren't as durable as the Jolt stickers. So they would fall off during the pulling process. So you didn't know when things were pulled. The stickers themselves are just a lot more durable than the circular stickers that we used to have in place. Not only that, it just makes it a lot faster because we had to do everything by hand. So stickers would get ruined because you're in the raw area. Yeah. And you're trying to use a pen while everything's got raw and juice and everything all over it. So things would get smudged and smeared. You didn't know the actual date because it looked like a 2, but it could be an 8.
That's great, and I love that you found your team found a solution for this, and it seems to have sped up that process. And it is, like you said, it's simple enough for a team member to understand how to use the system and just peel that sticker off, place it in the next stage, and go forth. So awesome! Thanks so much for sharing that, Hunter. I know you're one of our power users here, and you have basically stretched the ability of Jolt to understand a different process in different ways to allow that to happen.
Just so you guys know, these stickers do stick to the boxes when they are frozen and they're in the freezer. They are very durable. I have not had any problems with the stickers.
So thanks for sharing that. Our next step here, we just wanted to get a poll going, and Jeff will take care of that.
Yeah, thank you, Hunter and Johnny. I know the chicken tracking is a big thing, and I know Hunter spent a lot of time getting that prepared. And so you kind of saw from the screen there kind of how she set that up, and we just kind of wanted to see, you know, how valuable is chicken tracking process to be built inside of Jolt, whether that is the way Hunter does it, or just in general how you guys want to see that maybe built inside of Jolt. You know, how important that is that, and you'll see the options there. Again, if you don't see the poll popping up on your screen, feel free to use the chat so we can look through that as well. And then we'll go ahead and give this about a minute or so and have you guys go ahead and fill that out. All right. Thank you very much for taking the time to fill that poll out. This is all great information that John and I can use to really help roadmap us to where we want to go to help you guys as much as possible. This thing I wanted to talk about, we want to kind of step away just for a quick moment and discuss something that's Chick-fil-A and Chick-fil-A only. And some of you are aware of this and some of you are not. So we do an integration with Chick-fil-A. What that basically consists of is through the vendor bridge, you can basically quickly import your employees. I know one of the reasons why we started in this area first was because we understand from talking to many of you that Chick-fil-A has a lot of turnover, a lot of college kids coming and going, maybe a lot of high school kids coming and going. And so you're having to constantly go back and forth between two different platforms, taking people out of Jolt, taking people out of Chick-fil-A, and vice versa. Well, now you can integrate through the vendor bridge and through Jolt and actually be able to have your employees be pulled over from the Chick-fil-A home into the system. First, last name, email address, phone number, all of that, and they will sync with Jolt and they will show up in Jolt under the role they're in and everything. So it'll save you folks a ton of time from having to bounce back and forth. And this is something that has been very important for us. And the Chick-fil-A's that have used the integration have seen a huge difference in time saving. Hiring events where they just put it in one time, it syncs, it's done. They're in Jolt, they're ready to go. This is free for you to use. There's no extra cost to use the integration. At the end, you'll have our information where you can reach out if you're not integrated, and then we'll reach out. Feel free to us. We will make sure you get set up correctly. And if you already, whether you're an existing account and you've only got a few people in there, or however you're using Jolt, integration aspect through the vendor bridge is really, really, really easy and very fast, and is time saving, which is what we're here at Jolt to do, is to help save you time from having to deal with a lot of that day-to-day cumbersome stuff, which is, when it comes to employees and taking them in and out, is a very important one. Hunter, I'm not sure, and I should have found out beforehand. Now, you use the integration from what I understand. So how has that integration helped you as leadership to be able to save you some time from having to literally bounce back and forth between two different platforms?
Oh my gosh. I've probably saved hours upon hours of time because of the integration system. For me, it was just really hard for me to keep track of who was coming and who was going, because as you said, the rollover rate is high. We do get a lot of college kids coming and going, and it was just getting almost tedious to a point to remember who we hired, who's not in the system, who is in the system. And, they'd catch you at random points of the day and be like, oh, hey, Hunter, I'm not in Jolt system. I'm like, oh, okay. And then by 3 p.m., I've already forgotten about that. So that has just helped me personally, because I'm a forgetful person. And if I don't write it down or put it in my phone, I will forget by the end of the day.
Oh, that's perfect. And that's exactly what we want. And I'm glad that's been able to help you out. And it also works the opposite way as well. If you have an employee that also decides to leave the location, maybe leave Chick-fil-A, you take them out of Chick-fil-A home, they disappear out of Jolt as well. So it is definitely a time-saving system. And thank you, Hunter, for sharing that context with us. I appreciate that. One thing I wanted to go to really quick is some upcoming webinars that we have. Will be probably another one coming in August, another one coming in September. The other one we've got coming up is more geared towards prospects, people that and operators who aren't in Jolt yet, who haven't started using it, maybe thinking about it. We're going to have some good panelists on there as well to kind of discuss, the reasons why Jolt, and kind of hear what some other operators and some other leadership are saying as the reasons why they love that. And then also we're going to dive into more digital food safety and what you can do inside of Jolt when it comes to temp logs and our Bluetooth probes and that kind of stuff. So be on the lookout. There's going to be some more of those webinar registrations links coming out. And hopefully we'll be able to see you folks on those ones as well. So before we go into the Q&A, we wanted to do one more poll. And on this poll, as you saw, we had a lot of content we were showing you, a lot of demo stuff when it comes to the sub list, corrective action, the temp check, the safe counts, a lot of that stuff that Johnny and I have taken some time to kind of build out. We want to know, so many of this is going to, a lot of this, most of it, if not all of it, is going to be inside our publisher account that we have built that we can easily, and strictly just for Chick-fil-A, that we can actually subscribe you to with a couple clicks of a button on our end. There's no extra fees in the subscription. It's just a way that we can put content into your account that we have built already for that exact reason, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So basically, we want to know where you stand and how excited you are. Do you guys want this to be subscribed to? So this content that you've seen here will show up inside your account so you guys can start using it. And we just like to kind of get a feel of what that's going to be. So we'll give about another 30 seconds to a minute and have you guys fill that survey out and that poll, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. All right. Thank you for filling that poll out. Again, this is another great way for Johnny and I to kind of know where we need to go to help you further your usage. So we're going to go ahead and go into the Q&A, and hopefully we'll get to all of your guys. There's some great questions coming through, so hopefully we'll get through them all.
Okay, we're just going to go through with the questions and start with that, since there's quite a few questions. So first question is there a way to get a text email for an item on a checklist that is out of compliance? For example, if something in the fridge is temped at 45 degrees, can a leader get a text to help solve this issue faster? Jeff, I'm going to have you answer that question.
Yeah, Ariana, that's a great question. So yes, there is. So when it comes into those measurement items, when you set those ranges maybe for that fridge of what you want that to temp, you can actually set up a notification through Jolt via text or email, or both, when it's out of that range. So if you've got that range between, I don't want it to be, less than 35 and no more than 45, and that min max, anytime that temperature is taken and recorded outside that range, Jolt will send that text and that notification through text and email to that leadership or whatever role that you've got set up for that. So they can follow up and be like, oh, hey, my fridge is out of whack. And then they can follow up and find out what's going on. So that's a great question. But yes, Jolt does do that. And it's a very quick and easy process to get that set up. The next question we've got is from Kelly. Her and I just talked the other day. Is the temperature check only available to a restaurant that's using the scheduling part of Jolt? No, that is available as just a normal checklist. That temperature check can be used. You don't have to use any kind of certain feature for that. It's ready to go, and you can start using it. And actually, since it's already inside that publisher account, a couple of clicks, that list can show up inside your own account, and you can start using right away. That's a great question, Kelly. Thank you.
Next question here with Tyler. If we have a standard total for our safe count when it is over or under, will we be able to add a corrective action? Yes, so corrective, you can add a corrective action as long as you add an item, a yes/no item question to that. So at the end of that safe count, you can add a yes/no question and apply a corrective action to that. Great question there. Next question from Riley is, if my store were to implement the counting checklist, is there a way to control what team members have access to which checklists, i.e. so only managers that count could see the counting list? Yes, so I'll answer that one. So yes, you can manage who can create that document. or that form. So you can manage those that are only able to manage or be assigned to this list you can control that based off of your roles in Jolt. So great question there as well. Next question from Craig. Can lists be imported? Like if another store has a list you like? Jeff, I'll pass that on to you.
Yeah, Craig, that's a great question. So yeah, there's a couple of things that we can do actually. So with that, if you know who it is, and obviously they're using Jolt, Johnny or whoever your rep is can help with that. We're able to we're global admin access admin, so we'll be able to access all the accounts. So if there's certain lists that you like, as long as permissions are good, we can actually help import those and copy and paste and move those over. Or if there are lists you like in their entire account and you'll go ahead and use those to save the time, we can actually subscribe you to those accounts as well, to where all of their content will show up inside of yours that they have. And so there's a couple different options that we can do, and both are really quite quick. And Johnny and I are very, I guess, popular and very used to helping out with that when it comes to moving that kind of stuff around for you as leaders with Chick-fil-A. So yeah, feel free in that situation. If there is, you just let us know and we'll be glad to help you.
Next question here. Can the case number tracked with the Jolt stickers so we do not have to worry about keeping up with the cardboard? And that kind of, you can explain a little bit about that, Hunter, right? Of transferring the stickers from one case to another.
We are actively trying to find a way that we can get the cardboard, keeping up with that, out of the way too. We're trying to find a way to put the numbers with the raw chicken without having to every week go in and change everything based off of the case number.
Okay. Awesome. So still looking for a faster solution with that then.
Good question. Not solved yet, but working on it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that question, though. It helps us. Hopefully, we can find a good solution for that. So, next question here from Mark. I'm interested in using lists for cleaning task and the points attribute. Can you speak a little bit about how this works and how multiple employees can work on the same list to earn points? Great question, Mark. Yes, we'd love to get in touch with you. I think the best way to go about getting this answer is if you can contact one of us through the information we have on the screen right now. We can definitely talk more about points and help you understand how to develop some cleaning checklists for your store. So for the sake of time, we'd like to get through some of these other questions as well, but please reach out to us if you have a question. Next question is from Adam. Pretty soon, our owner will have a second freestanding unit. I'd like to separate our mall from the content group so the two FSUs can utilize the content group to its fullest. Is this possible and easily done? Similar thing here, Adam. Please reach out to us, Jeff and I. If you're not sure who your customer success manager is, you can reach out to both of us, and we'll make sure your situation here is handled. We're happy to get a call scheduled this week or next week at the earliest convenience to help with that. Thank you. Next question is, I'm considering trying to use Jolt as a digital training packet versus printing one out for every new employee. Has any other store attempted this? We do have actually a few stores that have developed some training processes within Jolt. It's definitely something that you can do within Jolt and something that Jeff and I can look to see if this is also a potential webinar that we can share with Chick-fil-A. But we definitely have some content or ideas that we can share with you if you can get in contact with us as well. And we can share some of those best practices. Next question is, can you cover the retention portion? Jeff, do you mind answering that question?
Yeah, forgive me. I'm assuming you're probably referring to the actual integration portion as far as the retention of employees. So with the integration, once the vendor bridge process is done on your end, which is the agreement that we're going to basically connect and work together, then the integration is actually mapped out inside your Jolt account. From there on, you can double check your profiles to make sure there's no duplicates that get produced, which there is a integration article that we have that we can share with you to kind of walk you through that process. The owner operator's credentials is the one that actually has to set the integration up first. And then from there on out, if you have access to CFA Home and you're able to input people, you can. So basically from there on out, it'll pull over any information that your existing employees already have in Jolt. The system will take the last 4 of their cell phone number and make that the PIN number for the iPad. So everybody's going to have a unique PIN number. If you've already got existing employees with PIN numbers, the system will not change that existing employee. It'll have to be done manually at that point. And then basically from there, anytime you hire and you add new people, for instance, myself, like if Johnny and I came to work for you and you inputted our information to the Chick-fil-A home side, and that syncs, we will now show up inside of Jolt with our first, our last name, email address, phone number, the role that we're in, everything. So it's going to save you a ton of time from having to go back and forth. Same thing goes if Johnny and I were to leave, or one of us was to leave, you take us out of the Chick-fil-A home side, we will disappear out of Jolt. So there's a lot less clicks and a lot less bouncing back and forth. I'm hoping that is what you're referring to. Feel free, if there's a more deeper question in that, feel free to reach out to Johnny or myself, and we'll make sure to dive in a little bit deeper with that.
Thanks, Jeff. Just so, since we're coming close to 3, just to let you all know, if you do have a hard stop at 3, you're welcome to leave this webinar. We will answer the rest of these questions. So if you're wanting to get an answer to that question, or you still want to stay on to hear that answer, we're going to make sure to answer these questions here. So next question is from Alexandra, and it's about answering the poll regarding this subscribing to the content. So she asks, will there have an additional cost to their store? No. So this is all free as far as subscribing you to this content, and your subscription price will stay the same. It's just a matter of a few click of a buttons, like Jeff mentioned, of making sure you get access to that. So no extra charges on these lists. We just want to help drive some more opportunities within Jolt that maybe you weren't aware of, and that you can see them in action today. So thanks for that question. We're going to group a couple of these questions since they're kind of along the same lines. Next 2 questions were regarding the temp checks. So when taking team member temps, does Jolt keep the daily temps recorded? And for people measuring their own temperature, how can we know employees have been honest with the temp they registered? Jeff, you mind answering that one?
Yeah, so the first question, when it gets recorded in Jolt. So as you saw with that temp checklist, when those temperatures are recorded and that list gets submitted, once that entire list is submitted, that will sync back up to the back end of Jolt in the reporting aspect inside your Jolt account, which is basically a digital file cabinet. So from there, there's many ways that we can pull that up, that you guys can pull that up and track that. And honestly, how Jolt works is if you had temp checks you took from someone 3 years ago, if that was the case, you could actually filter that out and pull that up. There's not really a limit with that. So all of your data is saved in your own Jolt account that you can actually look up and filter out the employee, what the list is, everything, who did it, who might have filled it out, all. So it will not disappear at all. It goes right to your actual Jolt account on the web portal. Great question. And so we've got, the other one was mentioned about the temp checks when it comes to the employees. So with that situation, the honesty part would be tough because we don't actually have, when it comes to those kind of thermometers, to take human temperatures integrated with Jolt yet. But that would be something that, as leadership, you might want to monitor that to make sure if they are taking their own temperatures, they are being correct with that. Hopefully there'll be something down the road where we might be able to have human temperatures actually taken through Jolt. Right now, that's just done manually, so there would be that honor code when it comes to that.
There's also, if you want to include a signature, a required signature for that too, just to provide more accountability on that, or maybe a manager has to sign off and see these temperatures and review them, that is something you can add to the list as well. just a signature at the end, or maybe a signature after each temp is recorded. So next question here is, some documents we have are confidential. Is there a way to limit the access to viewable documents? Yes. So if you're uploading documents into the information library, there is a way to manage who gets to see that and who doesn't. So great question there from Kyle. Next question is, where do you go to sync the employee info from Chick-fil-A to Jolt? So if any of you are aware, there's a vendor bridge process. You'll have to approve the vendor bridge first on the Chick-fil-A home site. And then once you've approved that, within Jolt, you'll go back into Jolt, and under settings and integrations is where you will finish off that sync. If you have any other questions on that, or have any issues coming across that, please reach out to Jeff and I, and we'll definitely make sure to make sure that integration does happen. And next question is, additionally to that, we will also be emailing out an instruction sheet on integration after this webinar. Once we publish the recording of this webinar, we will actually send out a step-by-step process on doing that integration, so that you don't get stuck with it. Next question is, can you bulk modify a label to include that case number? It's a great question there. So you can, the templates, as far as the labels go, you can adjust those how you want. If you're needing to bulk edit the labels, there is a bulk edit function to where you can adjust all the information within that label. So if you need to include the case number, you can adjust the template, and that will apply to all the labels that are associated with that template. And then if you need to bulk edit any of the individual information on that sticker, you can also do that as well. So you don't have to do it individually. So a great question there. If you are stuck with any of that, again, please reach out to Jeff and I. Philip here has said, asked, my store uses Jolt for write-ups. Is there any way to make the write-up private once it has been completed? I had a team member who saw their write-up because we have Jolt on all our iPads at our store. Team member was embarrassed when they realized others could see that they had been written up. Great question there. Jeff, you mind answering that?
Yeah, no, Phil, that's a really good question. So a couple things with that to kind of be aware of is, you want to make sure that that write-up form is not assigned as far as anyone can view. So there's some role-based ones you can actually have to where only the person in that role can actually bring that list up and actually do it. The other couple of things is you want to make sure too that your leadership. So one thing we've noticed a lot of times is those write-up forms or any kind of list that gets done gets completed, but they never actually submit the whole list to be submitted to the back end. And so it just stays on the iPad, which in that situation that can happen. So we want to make sure that gets submitted. The other thing as well is there's an iPad timeout. So when you go into each person's profile inside of Jolt, you will, or in the role, I'm sorry, in each role inside of Jolt, you will see in the upper left-hand corner, there is an employee timeout. If that's blank, if it's Apple devices, that defaults to 30 minutes. So if I was the leader, and pardon Johnny, but if I was to write you up for whatever reason, and I was on there writing Johnny up, I'm logged in, I get sidetracked and get pulled away, and I told Johnny I'll have to come back and finish that. Well, if I don't log myself out, that my profile, that list, that's going to stay logged in with my PIN number for 30 minutes until it times out. So you can adjust that inside the actual role for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 1 minute. And then if there's any kind of that amount of time of inactivity, the app will log them out. And that is really important when it comes to the certain leadership roles inside of Jolt to have that happen. So it kind of helps streamline that a little bit. So if that does, and they do get pulled away and someone else comes in behind them, it's already logged them out and they can't see what's on there.
And hopefully I can continue to keep my job here at Jolt so that Jeff doesn't write me up several times. All right, next question here from Aaliyah. Can a maintenance calendar provided by corporate Chick-fil-A be integrated into Jolt to auto-populate cleaning or to-do lists on Jolt? We are hoping to, as we strengthen our relationship with Chick-fil-A corporate, hoping to have more integrations with them. It's definitely something that's we're working at and a work in progress for sure. So We'd love to see a lot more integration in the future as we develop that relationship. At the moment right now, we don't have an integration on that. The only integration that we have are those employees that you can pull over. But there are ways that we can at least, if you're wanting to do those lists within Jolt, we can have them be on a repeating schedule, whether that be a quarterly, monthly, or biannually schedule. So if you're interested on knowing how to set that up, please reach out to us. Just a few more questions here. Can we have multiple photos on one question for a checklist? So great question there from Isaiah. You can only have one photo per task at a time right now. So that could be something we can explore in the future, but at the moment, it is only one photo per task that you can attach. Next question is, any future plans to link Pathway to Jolt? I would upload this on the information tab Jolt has. That is one thing we definitely want to try to get an integration for. I know Pathways is a big thing within Chick-fil-A for training purposes, and we'd love to have that integration within Jolt. As we talk more with Chick-fil-A corporate, this is hopefully something that we can have sometime in the near future. Is there a master catalog of different lists that we can subscribe to? We are working, so as we mentioned, we have this publisher account that we've been working to build out. So it will include the standard Chick-fil-A corporate lists that are like your daily checklist, your cleaning and opening checklist, as well as temperature logs. And we are working to include more lists in there, such as the ones you saw today, and as well as, sanitation, COVID-19 type checklists, as well as the labeling content as well. So we are working to build that publisher account up so that you can subscribe to, and then be able to adjust that according to your needs as well. So great question there from Alan. Next question is from Emily. Can I get more information about how the labeling list system was created on Jolt for chicken tracking? Yeah, feel free to reach out to us, Emily, through our contacts here. We'd love to get in touch with you to help you understand how that works out, how it's built, and any further details or questions that you might have. And thanks for reaching out. And then the last question here from Taylor. I know you have brought up sublists, but is there a way to add folders to organize lists? I have a variety of different type of lists. It can be overwhelming to scroll through them all. Jeff, I'll have you answer that question.
Yeah, Taylor, that's a really good question. And to be honest, that's one that's been asked quite a bit lately. We currently don't have any folders per se inside of Jolt to where you can kind of organize all your closing lists in one, all your opening lists in one. This is something that's actually in our feedback section that our customers have talked about already. And our development team does know about. As far as an ETA and the roadmap and where that's at, I'm not sure. But one thing I would love to have you do when you get a chance, Taylor, is when you go into the Jolt account, or even in the Jolt 2 app, you can actually go put in feedback with that. Or when you go into your Jolt account, there's a feedback tab that you can click on. If you click on that and then click on lists, you can scroll through and see what all the customers globally, honestly, are saying that they want to see in Jolt. And that feedback is actually in there to where you can upvote that. And the more upvotes that gets kind of more to the forefront, that gets looked at. As far as when that gets worked on, I'm not sure, but do know that is something we are aware of. And hopefully is someday soon, whatever that would be, there'll be folders inside of Jolt where you can organize your list a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. And thank you all for all your questions. We had a lot of great questions today, and it seems like it sparked a lot of interest and ways to how you can utilize Jolt. And we will have, again, this is recorded, so we will share this recording to all of you. For those that weren't able to attend, we will also make sure to blast this out to those that have registered. For anyone that didn't get to register, or you know someone that you'd like to share this with, once we have that recording, please feel free to share this webinar with them, as well as the rest of your team. And so thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Hunter, as well, for your great input. It was so exciting to have you on here and to share your ideas and your experience with using Jolt.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been so fun, and it was a really good experience for me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hunter. And with that, we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you.